How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Can you see me? Okay.
Yeah, I love your earrings.
Thank you. No makeup today, but it's okay.
That's okay. You look great.
I actually did mine, which I never do. Does this sound better, Kels, or no?
No.
This is.
Sounded better before.
So this is
Sorry,
good.
we're trying to figure out the sound, Christine. We're having some.
Okay. Yeah, I
My
don't have,
mic broke.
Yeah, her
I
mic
don't have
broke.
any good headphones either. I usually do, but I'm traveling, so.
Mhm.
But I think the sound is still okay enough to hear me. Okay.
Yeah, I think you sound okay.
I'll try to speak nice and loud and clear.
Yes. Okay. So.
Kelsey's the only one that's got it together. I don't have a mic, so I hope it works. My mic broke last week, so I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with it.
I mean, you sound good. Like
Yeah,
this.
I do.
It should be fine.
Okay.
Just if maybe both of you could go into your mic settings and then go to, wait, where is it? Audio settings, where it says audio settings. And then where it says automatically adjust microphone volume, if you can unclick that so it's just a blank box. That way Zoom doesn't like fade people's voices in and out when someone's like talking over each other, and we'll all just be talking.
Okay, nice. Okay,
Cool.
check it out.
So Christine, thanks for joining us. Usually when we do these interviews, we go for about an hour, just so you know about how long we're planning on going for. And usually we'll do like 45 minutes, and that's the actual podcast. And then we'll do a little bit of like extended behind the scenes stuff, and that'll be for our Patreon people. So they'll actually be watching the video, but most people will just hear it as a podcast. And yeah, we're super excited to have you today and talk about your new book, which is beautiful, by the way. I have not had a chance to start reading it, but when I got it in the mail, I was like, yes. And then I was skimming through it and I was like, this looks so good. Like,
Yeah.
I love how you were talking about the light work and then the shadow work and just having the balance and the integration of all of it. So we'll ask you more about that for sure.
Yeah.
Is there any topic in particular you're like really excited to talk about today, or should we just kind of let it flow and see what happens?
So, yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. How would you like me to introduce you, like in a one sentence situation?
Latina licensed therapist, healer, author.
Okay.
Pretty much all of it in one show.
Latina licensed therapist, author, and
Healer.
healer. Healer.
Yeah, you should have seen the other cover. It was so ugly. Oh my gosh. When
Right, because you don't really get to design the cover, right?
No, they did. They let me. Yeah, they did. But it was like totally not. But we can talk about that even about like the inspiration behind the cover. And then they nailed it once I sent it. It looked like a cheesy, like weird sex novel / like. And I'm like all about that. I'm a Scorpio. Like I love that. But it was like cheesy goddess. Like I was like, this is not gonna work, guys. No one that I know would like that.
That's amazing.
But and this is what I wanted. Like,
yeah,
That's beautiful.
Pretty, warm, simple. Not my face on the cover. Like I just wanted.
Right.
If we're judging books by the cover, that's a good one.
A+.
I appreciate that.
Okay, cool. So are you ladies ready to dive in?
I am.
Yes, and
Okay.
to answer your question, Kelsey, it's better
Yeah.
help.
Okay, yes, I did see that. Well, I can just use the same one we've been using. We don't have to record it during the show. That way we don't have to
It's
stop.
just one. That's easy.
Do you want to do it live, or do you want me to edit it in later?
I always prefer editing it in, but I'm super appreciative of the need to do it live, so I'm gonna leave it up to you.
Let's just edit it in to make things simple for today. Because I do not have all this stuff ready. Okay.
So, Christine, where are you?
I'm in Puerto Rico right now. Yeah.
Very good.
We live in the mountains, but right now we're in San Juan in his parents' house because we're going to a hotel for the night because tomorrow I'm coming to New York for the first time in a long time. because my best friend's getting married during this pandemic. So my husband.
So many people are doing so many big things. Like, go do you. I mean, come on.
I know we were a little bit scared and a little judgy at first. We're like, bitch, you're putting us in danger. But now we're like, we love you. We'll do it. It's fine. We'll all be wearing masks. But
Love it.
Okay, are you all ready? I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just give me a few minutes of silence. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. I'm Kelsey Aida, one of your co-hosts. I'm here with Lynnsey Robinson, one of my besties and a hypnotherapist. And today we have an awesome guest. Her name is Christina Gutierrez, and she is a Latina licensed therapist, healer, and author. And I have to say, I'm extra excited to have you on the show because Latinas unite. Woo! Thanks for being here, Christine. Tell us a little bit about what you do and kind of how you got into this work. So if anyone doesn't know you and they're listening, they can be introduced to your world.
Yeah, so I like to say that from the earliest times I can remember, I've always had some sort of connection to human suffering and wanting to alleviate that suffering. And I remember being a little girl and growing up in Bushwick in Brooklyn and walking down the streets with my mom and begging her to speak to homeless people and ask them their story and really just give them comfort. I remember specifically making eye contact with anyone that I saw that was marginalized and remembering knowing that just looking at them with love would give them some sort of feeling that they're not alone. And so ever since that kind of soul purpose was planted in me, I kept on following that inner call to help. And inevitably, I went through my own kinds of suffering that combines with that inner soul call to heal, to help alleviate suffering. I also went on my own journey to heal all the pain that was within me. And that really led me on this path to becoming a therapist, a healer, and now an author.
Yeah, and by the way, your book is so beautiful, and I haven't had time to dive into it yet, but when I got it in the mail, I was very excited. We'll definitely talk more about that later. It's called I Am Diosa, which means I am goddess, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So we'll dive into that in a little bit, but tell us a little bit more about how your healing ties into the therapy, which ties into the writing, and how it all kind of flows together, because I know how it flows together for me, but I love to hear like how it comes together for others.
Yeah, so for me, there is no separation between my therapy work and my spiritual work. And in the book, there's a line that I included that says the study of the soul is the actual meaning of the word psychology. It's not the study of the mind, it's the study of the soul. And so for me, when I did my clinical studies and I did the whole shebang and became a licensed therapist, I realized that there was something missing. And I was working with people that had gone through trauma, abuse, as a family therapist at the time. And particularly with POC communities, persons of color, Latinx, Black, Indigenous, and most of these people were people that were really connected to some sort of spirituality of their own understanding. And I found that there was a missing bridge of communication between this kind of more clinical, sterile, cold, almost in some ways, form of traditional talk therapy. And it really wasn't working as effectively. And when I started to incorporate more mindfulness-based techniques and somatic practices, helping people to get in touch with their body, their energy, bringing in these healing tools, I saw shifts happen. And people really responded well. And I believe that that's because of the energy, the warmth, the love. And so for me, when I realized that, I thought, this is therapy. It's just something that hasn't been maybe accepted by mainstream psychotherapy. And who's in charge of mainstream psychotherapy, right? These like white male kind of perspectives that have
It's always the white man.
I know.
It really is.
And like, here's the deal, right? We've learned some things that we needed to take from it. And, because we're all impacted by that. And I too, I've learned, from Carl Jung and, Freud and all these theories, but I had to do work to also decolonize my perspective on therapy and on spirituality. And and really give it the holiness and the sacredness that it deserves. That who's to say that because it wasn't taken into these case studies in this particular way, that it wasn't actually therapy. It was. And so that for me was, I always felt that call to be that healer, that, you know, whatever you want to call that bridge between the mundane world and the spirit world. And so then with that therapy practice, I was like, oh yeah, this makes perfect sense. This is what people need. And I'm happy to say that throughout these 10 plus years that I've been doing this work, people have had real results that last, and faster results.
I love that.
I want to rewind slightly and go into like your personal definition of therapy, because the way that I see it, therapy is a modality to heal or mend anything that is dysfunctional, whether that be like your thoughts, your emotions, your relationships. Would you say it's something similar to that, or do you have a different definition?
Absolutely. I think that's a great definition. And I think that when you are navigating kind of your inner emotional terrains, therapy gives you a safe space to do that. And hopefully, right, you work with someone that is validates your experience and all of who you are. So I think it's really important that we find therapists that really match our spirit, our vibe, and being really empowered in that decision making to find people that work for you, because this kind of old school version of therapy may not fit everyone, and that's okay.
I love that. And I find myself like now when I'm looking at like, I feel like I should have some sort of therapy on the side, because I really don't. I don't have anybody that I can unload on, you know, and people like us, the healers and the people that are supposed to, that feel like they're supposed to be helping others, rarely do we think, oh, maybe I should have someone too. Like, you know, you just don't think
1000%.
that. Well, exactly. And so now when I'm thinking about like, if I were to pick somebody, they would have to be spiritual. They would have to be connected to like the woo stuff. I can't have somebody that's rigid and like, let's talk about your Freudian slips or whatever. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I
and
just can't do it.
that, like to know that. And absolutely, I recommend that, you know, that everyone finds a way to get therapy. And there are many different options, free options and low cost options. And it's especially important for those of us that consider ourselves healers or, you know, change makers or leaders, because we also, most of us get into this work because we've gone through some dark night of the soul ourselves. We have our own pains, and we're really sensitive, really, really sensitive humans. And especially right now with all the things going on in the world, we need that place to have someone hold us in a strong container so that we can unload and also process and ground, and then be able to come back even stronger. I have my own therapist. I love it. Anything that I offer to people, I do myself. And it took me a long time to get there, because there were many times where I was doing the complete opposite. But I know now that that's like a 101 for my mental, emotional, and spiritual care. I need it.
Totally.
Yeah. We love therapy. We tell people every week on our show to go check out BetterHelp, because they're one of our sponsors, and we believe in therapy, and you can get matched with the professional there that you love. But I'm sure we'll get into that commercial break later. You guys will hear it, and we'll give you a coupon code, so stay tuned. If she's talking about more affordable ways to do therapy, that's definitely one of them. But yeah, I've found therapy invaluable in my healing journey, and also like in my journey of manifestation, because a lot of times when you're wanting certain dreams to come to fruition, the only thing that's stopping and holding you back is your own personal dysfunction or your traumas or unhealed, unresolved things going on inside of you that you might not even know. And that's where the shadow work comes in, where you dive into things that have been buried or shoved away in the back attic of your mind, or things you didn't want to look at because they were so painful. But when you can start to address those and give loving attention to them, it's crazy like how fast you can create resolve, and then energy starts flowing much more freely.
Absolutely. In I Am Diosa, the book, the subtitle is A Journey to Healing Deep, Loving Yourself, and Coming Back Home to Soul. And really, it takes you on that process. And we start at the root always. And that's exactly what you're talking about, right? Like looking at those deep emotional wounds and loving them up and nurturing them and listening to how they speak and how they move in your life and how they choose, what kind of partners they choose and what kind of choices they choose and what kind of thoughts they choose, and really nurture them so that they can heal just like any wound would heal, right? Just like any physical wound would heal, there's a process to that. And we need to learn to tend to that part of us just the same way we would if we were bleeding, right? Because our emotional wounds bleed just the same. And when we do that, on the other side of that are changes. And that's the thing about this work. I always say, like, this is really hard work. It's grueling work. It can be really, really take you to your knees, you know, and like break your heart open so many times. But there is hope on the other side of that. And the hope is that as you look at those places, you can rework and bring awareness and then change what doesn't work for you. Some of them are going to stick longer than others, and that's okay. You keep coming back to them. There's some that are more, you know, deeply stuck and ingrained in your nervous system that take a little bit more loving, or a lot more loving in my case. But then there's others that fall away. And when you start collecting that data that says to your brain, okay, as I start to change these patterns and do these things, look, my life gets better. Look, my relationships get better. Look, most importantly, I trust myself more. Like, you start to regain a sense of relationship with yourself and your soul. And so often we abandon ourselves when we've gone through traumatizing or painful experiences even. And so this is all about, you know, let me do the heavy work so that I can access my strength, my power, trust myself, and start choosing better choices.
Amazing. That was really eloquently said. I'm excited to read your book.
I know. I have a quick thing about the book. So I, when I got it, I was so excited. I was like, I know what this is. I know what this is. And I opened it, and I actually got to read the first couple pages, but my son saw it and he goes, Mommy, Christine Gutierrez, she has my name. All my kids are Gutierrez. My husband's a Gutierrez. I'm legally a Gutierrez. So samesies. But he was so excited to see his name on the book. I don't think he sees it. I mean, we don't see that name that often. And so when he saw that, he got like so excited. It was adorable. So thank you for showing my son that his name could be on a book. It's so cute.
That makes me like so happy. That is it. And that is a big part of, you know, being a Latina author, and my name Gutierrez, and just being able to stand in that also and own that and have that be there is really important and beautiful. And also I pray that beyond the medicine in the book and the tools that people get, that I also stand as a symbol for people so that they can know they can do it too. So things like that, where it's like your son saw his name, right? Because representation matters, and people's voices matter, and people's accents matter, and people's culture matters. And so all of those things, I definitely know that this will be, I have already started to hook up other people, particularly, you know, women of color, but I believe that this is going to be a big gateway into other people getting solid, abundant book deals with, you know, top publishing houses, because that was a big deal for me to own and celebrate and be like, yeah, girl, you did that, you know, like this is a big deal. And I hope that other people get inspired to know that they can do it too.
I love it. That's so cute. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big project to write a book. So.
Oh yeah.
Applause.
Guys, it's on my bucket list. And the more we have a guest on that has a book, I'm like, oh, what am I doing? It's been on my bucket list forever. And I'm just running out
You're meant to write it then, you know. And
yeah, exactly. It's one of those things, you know, that just keeps coming up. When I first started doing hypnotherapy, I was like, I'm going to have a book. Like, that was my objective, and then it kind of fell away. But you guys are very inspiring. Kelsey's got 2. Like, what am I doing with my life?
It's in its own.
And working on a third?
Yeah, it is in its own divine timing, honestly, because every time I've felt inspired to do a book, it's like I have to start writing it in that moment. Like, you have that feeling like I can't do anything else except this thing right now. And then, you know, there's phases of coming back to it and taking a pause and going back into your life to learn more for the book, and then coming back to the book, and then editing and getting it all together.
Lynnsey, right? You have a real human baby, right? Like a son.
Just
I
three.
have 3 sons.
Yeah, 3. Okay. Well,
A human being.
yeah, you have humans, right? It's
I do
also,
have humans.
but also there's a different birthing process for everyone, right? And sometimes it's
Yeah.
birthing humans, sometimes it's birthing businesses, and we can do it all. We know that, right? We have many powerful examples of that now, but I do believe that everything has its timing, and if you feel that call, definitely. My dear friend Juliet Diaz and she's also an author. She's signed with Hay House. I'm signed with Penguin Random House, and she and I started this program called the Soul Book Masterclass, and we actually started it. It's a 1-year journey, and it's for people that want to birth their book. Why? Because people need that accountability. People need to know how to write the book proposal, that you don't have to write the whole book to get the book deal. In fact, you don't do that if it's in the nonfiction genre. You just write a really amazing book proposal, get a book agent, and they pitch the book. So all of those things are important. And I think I also signed up for things like that to help keep me accountable, because sometimes we need that kind of container to actually stay on track with what it is we need to do. We all need that help. Just like in therapy, we need it in business as well.
I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, Kelsey.
I was muted. Great tidbit for anyone who wants to write a book, which I'm sure a lot of people listening to this specific episode have that in mind. Otherwise, this conversation would probably not come up.
She's the woman to go to. So is there a place people can check that program out if they're interested? Like, do you?
Yeah. It starts in September, but if they sign up a little bit afterwards, they can still get access because everything will be recorded. So it's www.thesoulbook.co.
So soulbook.co. I love it.
I'll put that in the description too, so you guys can click it really easy. Can we circle back around to how therapy can make your life better, in the sense that when you heal and tend to the inside, things can start flowing and you'll see results in your life? Because I have a really epic story about this, which I can share next. But do you have any cool stories, maybe recent ones of clients or maybe even yourself, of where your outer reality was obviously showing you that there's something not working here, so you're like, okay, let's tend to this, and then you did, and then it shifted?
Yeah. So, and we'll keep therapy to mean, for the sake of this conversation, anything that brings you to healing. And so with that, even in the book, I share this beautiful story about one of my clients that she was addicted to this toxic relationship, would keep going back, and also had a history from her childhood of having a very emotionally abusive father that just really had high expectations of her constantly. And her internalized message of that was, I can never do enough. I'm never good enough. I'm not lovable enough. And so that downloaded kind of blueprint on how love looked and felt carried on into her teen years, carried on into her adult years. And so when she was out there, her picker for these relationships was off, right? Because it was still registering some of those unhealthy patterns from childhood. And so through our work together, she was able to go through this process of being able to connect the dots and really bring deeper awareness, and then have tools, whether it was breath work, whether it was having journaling exercises, whether it was having energy work, whether it was her doing rituals, but essentially what I call pattern interrupters, anything between you and those negative choices, those behaviors. And it wasn't like this linear path, right? She would slip up. I call this the relapse pattern. It's super normal in healing. No one has to get scared if they slip up. Getting back on track, I have a formula in the book, the Get Back on Track formula, that really breaks down how relapse and slipping up is also part of the process. And so she went on this process, and she slowly started to see that she was regaining her energy back. Every time she was doing these things, literally imagining light coming back into her body. Every single time her vessel was like regaining, okay, I do got a little bit more power. Okay, cool. It's like, a video game of sorts, right? Video game of life. And she was noticing that as she started to prioritize her needs, and instead of seeking external validation, she was gaining her validation from source, from divine, from herself, from the healing container of our sessions. And she slowly began to see that she was worthy of more. set better boundaries, walked away from the relationship, and ultimately now has her own practice of helping other people heal. She does self-love retreats. She is totally embodied in herself, and it's amazing to see. This is not like one story, right? This is like many of the diosas that I've worked with that have been in these really shitty dynamics, mostly relationship stuff that comes up, but also careers that don't serve them, and really taking the time to see, where did this idea come from? Where did this seed of unworthiness come from? Where are the thorns in the timeline of my life? How can I go back, pluck them, heal them, navigate them, and really start to practice what it would be like to walk closer to the version of you that you're meant to be. And it's incredible. I mean, obviously for my own life, I have, gotten sober and many deaths and rebirths over and over and over again, but my life changed. I was attracted to, I dated drug dealers who were like, the worst of the worst. Like if it was like the worst one in the room, I would close my eyes and like put my finger out and I would find him. It's magical, I would pick him because my subconscious was trying to recreate those earlier childhood patterns of abuse. So I had to go deep and solve it. And when I started to, my relationships got better. Right now, my partner is just absolutely a manifestation of my inner work. It's not always perfect, but he is a testament to doing his own inner work. And even my prior relationship to him was a really healthy relationship. It wasn't a fit. It wasn't what I wanted for my whole kind of journey. I didn't feel that he had enough power to hold the vision of the life that I wanted. But it was a healthy relationship. And again, that happened because I did the inner work. And so for those of you that are in the darkness now and kind of playing out those patterns, know that it's okay. Know that as you do this work, as you go through this book, as you take the steps to work with the people you're guided to work through, changes happen on the inside and then happen also on the outside.
Yes. My example that I was going to give is very similar, because before the relationship that I was in now, and I notice with the women around me, like the relationships are such huge mirrors, like you can't ignore that one when it's happening. So for me, I was in a really emotionally abusive relationship, and when I was looking into it and doing more work around it, I realized that in a lot of ways, he was showing me how different parts of me treat myself. So where I was super hypercritical of myself, he would be super hypercritical and judgy of me. And where I would feel like I wasn't doing enough, he would reflect that back to me and, oh, you're not doing enough. And all this stuff that was going on inside of me, it didn't really tie so much to childhood, but it was like my inner dynamic with myself was being played out in this relationship. And so when that ended, thank you, universe, for sparing me from that. When that ended, I had to do so much healing work because I was very confused. I didn't understand. I was like, why did this happen to me? Why do I still love this person who was horrible to me? This is weird. Like I shouldn't be in love with this person. And the whole time that I was doing this inner work, I just really focused on fixing my relationship with myself. Okay, let's see how my inner critic is. Why is she like that? What is she trying to help me to achieve? Is there a more healthy way to put her to good use so I don't just obliterate her altogether, but I give her something beneficial to do for me? Reassigning roles and things like that. And like now my partner is so crazy awesome. And like I was thinking about it the other day, like how thankful I was for him. But then I was like so fucking proud of myself because I was like, this is honestly just a reflection of my new relationship with myself, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching self-love, and why we always say, like, if you want to attract your soulmate or manifest the love of your life, like start with yourself. Not that you have to be perfectly healed before you go into a relationship, but it is helpful to have a solid foundation with you first. And
Absolutely.
it's like insane. And now that's really cool, your client that you were talking about, because she hosts self-love retreats, and so do I. And so I feel like we're kind of on this cool little path together. So that's great.
And
Weird.
that you were able to, to recognize that within yourself, right? And it doesn't only have to be childhood. It can also be how we treat ourselves, right? And also recognizing, and I say this in my book, there's like a funny little line that I put, but a very important line, where I say, sometimes, yes, sometimes in your situation, right, where it was this inner kind of critic that was coming up. And sometimes the light attracts moths. And so they could have nothing to do with how you treat yourself, or how it could be that, maybe the lesson is your light will attract many people. And the example that I give is that, sometimes you could be walking down the street in New York, right? And you could be doing your thing and totally fine, but just the law of just like life and probability, you're going to have some crazy people along the way. And sometimes your light can attract that.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that, it's coming from you. A lot of times I'll see a lot of clients that are saying, well, maybe there's some part of me. And it's like, no, it can also be that sometimes the person is just not good, and that you need to learn to just say no, right? Instead of going so deep down that cycle of like, what is it in me? What is in me? And sometimes it's just very simple, right? It's like, you don't have to accept everything that comes our way. And not in your situation at all, but for those people that are listening that might be, wondering and putting the blame on themselves, sometimes people are just assholes. Sometimes people are just crazy. Sometimes people are just a bitch and you don't like them because your gut is telling you that they're not good for you. It's not always some unhealed part of us, right? Like sometimes, you can have a feeling when you meet someone, you're like they are, something's off. I don't trust them. And that can be your intuition. And I only say that to give people context there's so many different ways to heal. And especially with the spiritual lexicon that's so heavily focused on, it must be within you. It must be within you. Sometimes it ain't within you, boo.
That's true.
People are,
That's going to be the quote for the episode. Sometimes boo.
Yeah, because it's true. Because I feel like if you can't see it very obviously, then that's probably not what it is. Because like for me, I was like, oh, this is exactly how I treat myself, like duh. But if you're like trying to dig for it and nothing's coming up, like it's probably just not that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Love it.
So by the way, New York is the perfect example. You will never come across a wider array of individual lifestyles than in New York City on the sidewalk. So great example. And I love that example because it's absolutely true. Like someone cuts you off on the highway, you're not going to be like, what did I do to deserve this?
Exactly.
What's my past life karma?
Exactly.
It goes, this cutting off.
Exactly. Perfect. Good. That's exactly what we're talking about. Not, because it can be spirituality can be used to harm. And so in my book, I really made a point to add a little bit more psychological meat to conversations and to bust some myths around things. And really, more importantly than anything, if you're trying to really heal, is validating your true feelings and your emotions. That's it. And so sometimes it goes too far, and people they actually end up being harmed by something that's supposed to help them because it's not grounded enough. And so in this book, though it's spiritual, it's also psychologically grounded.
Yes. So the book is obviously such a great resource, and I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about working with, you do still see clients, do you?
Yeah, right now because of COVID, everything has shifted with the whole business structure has shifted. Right now we're doing the digital community is really my main focus.
Yeah.
I do retreats, and at some point we will do them again. The Diosa retreat is my annual retreat. This year would have been the 9th annual one in Puerto Rico. So we're probably just going to do it next year, but yeah.
So obviously those are really, really great ways to focus personally on this stuff. If someone's listening to this episode or watching, shout out to Patreon. If someone's listening to this episode and they're like, I really feel this and I want to start doing this. A lot of this resonates with me. What do I do? Would your next step be get the book? Would your next step be to reflect on things in their life? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, the next step would be
all of it.
Get the book. If you feel called to, like you mentioned, sign up for therapy. I am telling everyone if they are able to get the hardcover and the audiobook, because my voice transmits a lot of energy and initiation. So it's a good combination, and to keep a journal alongside the journey so that they could do the soul work that's in every chapter. So I would say book. And if you don't have the money to buy the book or the audiobook, there's a beautiful program on my website for the book, iamdiosabook.com, that allows you to get a free book if you're in financial need. So that's also an option. So there could be no excuses. We did that on purpose so we can really help support people that, you know, $25 could be a lot. So that is where I would say to start, because those two pieces give you something to focus on where it's actionable and bite-sized. And with those steps, this is the kind of thing, and I've been reminding people of that. You can take this book to your therapy office. A lot of times people don't know what to talk about or don't have enough context. And this gives people really great talking points to discuss with their therapist. So I think that combination is a wonderful place to start. Keep it simple, keep it easy. And the next thing is, you know, writing down what you're feeling in your heart needs to change. You know, get still with yourself and ask yourself, what am I not satisfied with? Because on the other side of that lack of satisfaction is a desire that's waiting to be born, right? Like on the other side of that is something that's waiting to be born. Something needs to die in order for something to be reborn. So just get honest about one thing. I like to do things in threes, so maybe pick 3 things. But if all you can find is one thing that you feel blocked in, write that down, bring consciousness, and trust that as you claim that, you will start to make shifts.
Oh, I love that.
It's a really beautiful idea to bring the book to the therapy session, because you can like go through an exercise, for example, and then notice, oh, this is coming up for me. I remembered a time when this happened. It was really painful. I had these demons in my mind as I was going through it. And then you can go with the facilitator and they can help you work through it. So I think that's a really cool way to work with the book. I never really thought about it like that. I love it. Also, I want to talk about, in your personal journey, what is a recent transformation that you've undergone? Because you're obviously very Scorpio. Your death and rebirth talk is like very Scorpio. I love it. I'm always like surrounded by Scorpios. I love them so much.
Yeah.
Can you tell us one of your most recent experiences personally of like something that you had a breakthrough or transformation with?
Right now, I still think I'm in the midst of like a really big breakthrough. I can feel it. I wouldn't say I'm on the other side of it. I think I'm like in the middle of it. But I noticed that, you know, for me now that I've come to this place where I've manifested, for lack of a better word, right? I've healed a lot of these emotional wounds, and I've been able to get to the other side of them in a lot of ways. And with that comes a new life. But I'm still learning how to live in that new life that I've manifested. I'm still learning how to expand my vessel to be big enough to hold all the blessings that I have. And not only hold them, but bask in them, appreciate them, be in the joy of them. You know, so I am really great at shadow work. I'm really great at holding space for people's suffering and pain and shame and letting them know that they're not alone. And part of that gift in that is that I've gone through that personal dark night of the soul myself, and I've come through the other end. Well, what happens when you have that new life? You need to learn to celebrate it, right? So your book comes out, all these things, and I'm there like crying and like, you know, out of joy, but also out of like, holy shit, this is so much, right? So much blessings. And for someone that it might sound kind of counterintuitive, like why would you feel sad when you have all the things you want, right? But it's almost like if you have your tolerance level for pain can be really high when you've gone through a lot, but your tolerance level for joy then can be really low. And so I'm learning to up my levels of my capacity for joy now, and to really learn to sit in that. Like I have this conversation with my husband really often about like, wow, like my life is really good, right? But like you would think it's not as amazing as what it is, because of how I can still be like very like nervous. And I think part of that comes from the feeling that what if it goes away? What, you know, that deeper core issue of like, you know, really unpacking that worthiness. And I'm talking about like in the depth of me. And so, you know, don't get it twisted, you know, people that are listening, like there's always a next unfolding to what that looks like. And hopefully if we keep it, you know, honest, and we're vulnerable with ourselves, and we let ourselves be human, which is the whole point of this experience, right? So let ourselves be human, is that you'll notice like, wow, that is true. There's still this part of me, right? And so that's what I'm currently in the midst of. And I'm actually going to be like really working with the element of like joy and imagining kind of my vessel expanding and holding all of that, and kind of not thinking that it's corny, because I have a lot of judgment around what that looks like to be in that state of joy, because we've seen so much, spiritually bypassing and all this stuff. But part of what I need to do is trust that I could never be the kind of person that spiritually bypasses, or I can never be that kind of person that's not deep. So I can trust in that shadow and that depth, right, and live in the light more. So that is my journey now.
That's so funny that you say that, because I feel like a lot of people who identify as shadow workers, they like poop on positivity, and they're like, it's only spiritual bypassing, like happiness is dumb, like go to therapy, like happiness is so overrated. It's all about like digging into your wounds, and like, yeah, that has value, but actually so does allowing yourself to have joy, which this is like the perfect segue into. Yeah, you need both. Like you have to cultivate space in your body for all of it if you want to feel fulfilled in your life.
All of it, not just one. And the people that are, this is the lesson, right? The people that are too skewed towards, positivity and ignoring their feelings, then part of your journey will be to allow yourself to feel the shadow. The people that are in the shadow but swimming in it, right, need to learn how to give themselves space for breaks and give yourself space for joy, and even self-care, right? That's like a really big part of it. I've gotten really good at that, like being able to say, okay, like let's schedule in this thing that's going to make me feel, like when I was doing all the lives back to back, I made sure to go to the beach just to have like a nature reset and connecting and grounding and refreshing and celebrating, because that's how I like to do it in nature. So these are the things, and the book is going to give you both. And the last section of the book is about the integration. So it's the shadow, the light, and then the integration of both, so that, like you said, we can hold all of it. So that's where I'm at now, and I'm excited to see what that is going to give me, because I feel like it's going to be really juicy and a lot more pleasure.
Yeah. When I get the next copies of my book that I just wrote, because it's all about cultivating more joy on a daily basis and just like allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to have that and receive that, I'll have to send you a copy, since I have a copy of yours and you can have a copy of mine. It sounds a little corny, because it's called Affirmations for Happiness, 200 affirmations for cultivating more joy. And I feel like people who are really deep can kind of shy away from this happy little yellow book, because they're like, well, is that actually going to help me? Like, is that even deep enough? Is it grounded enough? But it's like, hello, you also came here to experience joy and pleasure and celebration. And it doesn't have to be heavy all the time, especially during these times when there is a lot of healing happening. It is really heavy. There is a lot of transformation. It's important to just stop and smell the roses and take those breaks and just smile and laugh. Like that is some of the best medicine.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what we're saying is that, it's about knowing that all of the emotions are sacred.
Yes.
And if you know that, you can play in both worlds easily. It's the denial of any of those that's when it becomes toxic. And so, I have affirmations and things in my book and mantras, etc. And I really believe in them. Do I believe that we can just slap it on something? No, you do have to do the deeper work for that. But that's where this comes in, right? It's like this merging of both, and people take advantage, right? You have all these different tools. Like this is where we can learn, absorb different medicine, and really step into both. So I love that question, and I'm excited to report back what my second book will be like after
right? It's great. It's like great how on your journey, it's like, okay, at this time in my life, this type of work is really valuable to me. And then, okay, that's served its purpose. Now we're moving over here and diving into this a little bit. And now have all these tools in my tool belt. And then you become a more whole integrated creature where you can really feel great. And I like always say that my new definition of feeling good is not being happy all the time, but it's being fully expressive and authentic all the time, because it can feel really, really good to cry. It can feel really, really good to scream. It can feel really, really good to laugh. And it's just a matter of being in that space of allowing and having that huge safe container to hold space for yourself, no matter what you're feeling, without judging it. And you can go through life with so much grace when you have that level of emotional mastery and just love for yourself, no matter what you're experiencing.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Beautiful. I think this is the perfect time because we're about to get into some really good content. I feel like I'm getting the tingles. So we're going to go to Patreon and continue. I have a really good question for you. So head over to Patreon for that one. And I'm sure Kelsey's got a lot more wisdom bombs to drop. And if you're not on the Patreon, go to patreon.com/highvibe to get all the extra content, bonus content, and all the good stuff from us. We're going to continue the conversation. Christine, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you? What do you want them to know? Like, give them a piece of advice and where they can find you if they want more.
Yeah, for anyone that's, listening and that feels that you want more and that you deserve more, listen to that. That's your soul guiding you and whispering and sometimes shouting at you to be like, you deserve it. And for all the information about me, you can go to christineg.tv and sign up for my newsletter. You'll get all the goods there. And I love Instagram, so you can play with me there at Cosmic Christine. Buy the book, hardcover audiobook, and share it.
Yay.
Yes, please buy Christine's book. It is beautiful and amazing and will definitely help to cultivate your healing journey. And also another opportunity for you guys to work with us. I'm hosting a group program right now with my friend Natalie Susie, and she teaches she teaches happiness at UCSD. So she's like a happiness professor, which is kind of funny. But also we're doing this group called Glow Up Sisterhood, where we're creating a really sacred container for healing and working through your blockages and cultivating more light and releasing resistance and releasing judgment of yourself and your life, for the sake of feeling more integrated, feeling more whole, feeling more fulfilled, and to have it in the context of 9 weekly Zoom calls where you have a community of sisters who are all on the same journey and supporting each other, rooting for each other, and lifting each other up. So if you're like, yeah, I want to use this time wisely and I really am feeling called to work with Kelsey in this kind of therapeutic capacity, this group program is one of the only live things that I'm doing right now. That'll be a really cool way to work together, also with other women, also with my friend Natalie, who we should have on the show, by the way. But yeah, if you want to learn more about it, go to kelseyaida.com/glowup. And we love you guys. Lynnsey, anything else going on that they need to know about?
Girl, I'm still recruiting. I'm not recruiting. I'm enrolling new clients for February, so I need to actually slow down, but I do love you all. Thank you for reaching out. And if you want to get on the wait list, that's all it is at this point.
Yeah, and
I wish I had more.
And I just want to say we apologize for the sound being weird today at my house. There's like so much construction and I hear like this like super annoying noise happening.
Oh, we've heard nothing.
Okay, I hope you guys aren't hearing it.
Good.
Okay,
Nothing.
great. And then Lynnsey's mic, it is temporarily broken. So if the sound
if you heard the
sound
podcast last week, you know
great.
that it took a poop in the middle of the episode. So I have nothing. So we're doing our best.
We're making it work. We are here for you guys. We show up every week, mic or no mic.
Yay.
So thanks for listening. We love you. Head over to the Patreon for more goodies and have an awesome week full of healing, happiness, love, and not judging yourself.
Yay!
Yay.
Awesome.
I think that's perfect.
That's great.
Yay.
We can go for maybe like 15 more minutes. Is that okay,
Awesome.
Christine?
Yeah. Let me plug in my phone so I can charge it while we talk.
Yeah, girl.
We got this really cute, like this hotel, but like on trade. So we just like doing stories, and it has like this
cool
jacuzzi thingy, and I'm so excited to go
That's
there.
Great.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous to fly, but I got like all my shit, like my
Don't be nervous. I've already done it a bunch.
How was it? It was fine?
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, especially depending on the airline you go on, a lot of them are still leaving the middle seat open. So if like you're flying with your boo, like it's just going to be you two in that row.
Oh, that's good.
you won't have other people that close to you. And then everyone just wears their mask. And, you know, I just been taking my supplements and all my herbs and stuff. And it's been fine. Just wash your hands.
We still need to do an episode about herbs because I don't know anything and I really want to. I want you to teach me about herbs.
Yeah, I mean, we could get an herbal specialist on here. My friend Selena, who is dating my friend James, she's like a Mexican witch doctor lady, and she knows all about plant medicine. So probably better to have her than me.
Love it.
Yeah.
Let me give, sure, what should I do? I can't find it. It's okay. Let's do this and then I'll charge it.
Yeah, no worries. So
before, sorry, Kelsey, do you have something?
Yeah.
Because I got something I've been sitting
no,
on.
ask your question.
Okay. So I have something I want to talk to you about. I know you touched on it in the actual episode, but I feel like it needs to be dove into a little deeper because I am definitely seeing, especially now with the theme, and I gotta say I have it too, this weird fear or sticking point when things get real good in your life and you're like, what's gonna go wrong?
Ooh,
Something's going wrong. Am I sick? Am I about to die? Like I have had those thoughts. And I know so many of my lovely, wonderful clients that have reflected that back to me. And I'm just like, yep, it's a thing. Okay. So we have you, you're in front of us. What do we do about that? And is it always worthiness? Because I feel like somewhere deep down, it's like somewhere maybe we were taught that we don't get to have it all. And maybe that's a worthiness piece. Maybe it's experiential. I know for me, it's definitely experiential where if things get too good, be on high alert. So I'm just going to let you talk.
I mean, we have so many messages. First of all, we have so many messages in our society that don't just come from our childhood, but that also come from, you know, the patriarchy, that come from our cultural backgrounds, that come from, you know, even our own life that has shown us certain data that says, oh, well, sometimes things go really well, then XYZ happens. Or we've been told that you can only be this one role, right? You can only be you know, I talk about this a lot not in this particular book, but in general, my work, like you can just be either the mother or the whore, the business entrepreneur and it's so many different.
Did you say the mother or the whore?
That's right.
Okay. I just want to make
right.
sure. And that's what came into my ear hole.
Right? So we get sectioned off into being like this, you know, it's a very black or white kind of society where it's like, you know, black and white thinking. This is bad, this is good. If I'm really successful as a mom, then I can't be really successful as a businesswoman. If I'm really successful in this area, then I can't tap into this other thing. We have not been sold, right, the storyline that we can have it all. And I remember even like if you think about, you know, lately maybe we've started to see this message of you can have it all, right? You can have maybe not all at the same time, but you can have it all. And so I really think that also we need to start expanding our vision of what it means to be this kind of modern day woman and what it means to be this modern day person. And that means that we're more connected to our desires. Things were done more out of practicality before, right? You buy the house, you do this, you get the job that's secure for, you know, 9 to 5. We're living in a totally different paradigm right now. Old systems are all crashing. Old ways of money, old ways of how we do relationships, old ways of how we do businesses, they're all crashing. And so we intuitively, many of us know this, and we're like, okay, wait a minute, so I can have it all, but then the old messaging comes back in. It's like, wait a minute, can I? Right? Like, wait a minute, like, do I get to, could it be that easy, right?
It's like you're at a big buffet dessert table. What are you going to do? Are you going to, like what I would do? And I think this says a lot about how you handle life. Like I would go up and take a little bit of everything. And I don't want to take too much. You know, I don't want to, some people would be like, yes, here we go. I'm here. And then some people would be like, maybe I should take the fat-free option. You know, like, that's how you relate to the dessert table would be how you would relate in life in terms of having it all. Like maybe taking a little bit of everything is only doing everything half-ass.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And letting ourselves be like, what happens if you really allow yourself to have all your desires, right? There's like that original wound from, you know, Adam and Eve. Eve took the apple. And, you know, she ruins life forever is what
for everyone, for all of eternity.
For all of eternity.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, you know, there is a belief that desires are bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that if you have too much of them, then literally you're damned to an eternal hell, right? So can you imagine that's how deep that messaging goes from the beginning of time? So
Yeah.
we have that and we're breaking out of that. And we're like, wait a minute, what if like homegirl just really wanted to eat the apple because apples are yummy and good for you? You know,
and
like,
they have vitamin A.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Like, they have
apple a day keeps the doctor away. What happened to all of that shit, right? Like what, like, and so there's this part of us that are saying, wait a minute, let me look at these stories and let me look at these perspectives of how to do life and let me change it. You know, one of my good friends, I should introduce you guys to her. This woman named Linda Luce, and she stepped into her spiritual power. She's a spiritual teacher, but recently she's been teaching about the stock market. And she's been breaking down easy ways to make fast money. And she's like, some part of her cultural background downloaded blueprints around money were that it was too good to be true. And so she's constantly having to work on that is like, no, it can be like that too. And so I believe that, you know, as we, again, going back to what we were talking about, where that's my growing edge right now is stepping into that is, can it be that easy, right? Like if you've already done the hard work, which a lot of us have or are about to embark into, can we also give ourselves the space to rewrite what having it all means? And having it all means that maybe we do get to consistently have things that are amazing. And while life still gets to happen and we still get to work through things that fundamentally that we still get to be cocooned in that, like, yeah, we do get to have it good. And, you know, and I've been seeing that, like, that's the thing, like, maybe I've been on edge about losing it, but I've been seeing that no matter what, when you're in that state of faith, when you're in that state of peace, you get to resolve things faster, AKA everything around you gets to stay more secure, more happy, right? So there needs to be something that changes about that. We really get to have more than we think we do.
Yes. It doesn't get easier, you just get better. There's always going to be stuff you're coming up against.
And it's like, for every genuine desire that you have, when you're on the brink of it, there's gonna be some kind of growing pain because you're expanding into a new version of yourself. So like, I'm so glad that you brought this up, Lynnsey, because this literally just happened to me this weekend. Like, I just started crying with my boyfriend because things are so good. And then all these like evil thoughts came into my mind and they were like, well, love never lasts for you, Kelsey. Like, why do you even bother? Like, don't even plan a future. Like, this is all just a waste of time. It's just all going to come crashing down. Like all these evil thoughts just from the past loves not working out, even though of course they serve their purpose and they worked how they were meant to. But it's like, these thoughts, they come in and then your job is not necessarily to tell them that they're wrong or to make them go away, but just to come back into your wise adult perspective and be like, okay, these are just my wounds. They just don't want me to get hurt again. But like, it's already happening. So clearly it's safe to have it all.
Yeah, and the thing is that life is unexpected, and that's the reason why we get nervous, right? Because it's like, life is unexpected. You don't know what's going to happen. You know, spirit, God, source, whatever's in charge, life, nature. And so, you know, this practice of like knowing you get to have it all, but this simultaneous comfort, that inner security so deep within you that no matter what, I'll be okay, right? And that's hard to grasp, right? It's hard to grasp when you have love for people, especially when you're talking about a parental love. You know, I don't have a baby yet, but like that kind of love, right? That level of, especially I would say like this devotional kind of like with your child, or where you feel like, no, I wouldn't be good. Like I couldn't do this.
Yeah. I would say that's the deepest
that's the
one.
deepest.
For
right?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I only know through my friends, right? Through my clients, through people that are sharing this. And even in those ways, whatever is happening, you will ultimately be okay. And that's the thing, right? Like that's the part of us that we're like, we don't want to look at it because we're like, that's that part of us that, but the more we look at that, the more we look at that deep fear, the more we can say, so that I get to be present. That will allow us to be more present in what do I have now, right? What do I have now? And I always joke that like people should talk to a lot of us, right, that are doing this work. If you talk to our partners, they're actually the wise ones that are reminding us to stay present in the moment, because they have to deal with all of us, our crazy butts.
Kelsey, how many times I tell you, Abel's like, you say this to people all the time. My husband's Abel. And he's like, come on, manifesting girl. Come on, law of attraction. Come on, positive hypnotherapist. You do this. And I'm like, okay, you're right. I know.
And it's so annoying because they want to see everything, but it's true. Because you're like, damn, I know, but it's true. And that's the thing, right? Like the more present we can be, and that's like a practice, right? Like let's be present. Let's look at and really give ourselves a space to think, I'm going to take it one day at a time. I'm going to sink into the blessings that are here right now, right here. I'm going to soak them all up. And the more I do that, at least I know I'm setting myself up to win way more.
And it's like, go ahead, Lynnsey.
Well, I feel like it's an important distinction when you say like, no matter what, even in those, like for me, oh my God, I can't even say it out loud. It's big. Okay. Kelsey, no. But like, I don't, when I hear that, I'm like, I know that, like, I know, and I'm with you 100%, but I know there are people listening, and sometimes it's your mom, it's your dad, it's somebody else, it's your dog, it's somebody that's so close to you. You're like, I'm not going to be, because part of you doesn't want to be okay. You want to love them so much that it's like, you're not, even though you are. Now, this is why I want to make the distinction. It's not that you're not going to care. Of course, you will care, but you will be okay. Yeah. And I know that's a whole other thing. There are people that need to feel they need to feel the grief. They need to feel the deep guilt and despair because they feel like it's validating in some way.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. The ball game, but it's like focusing on the fact that if you look at those places and you can speak to, right, like that voice that came up is like, everything's going to be awful. It's like, dude, but everything's fine right now, right?
Yeah.
And like, maybe something bad does happen. Maybe you don't, but who are you to know that, right? So feeding that thought and feeding that energy only guarantees that there's more possibility of self-sabotaging it, right? Yeah. So like the reality then becomes, okay, well, if life is unexpected, then what I have in front of me is really beautiful and really sacred. I can express this fear and I can honor it, but I can also sink into the reality. And that's what I was talking about earlier, that for today, my life is pretty badass and I've earned it and I've worked really hard at it. And I get to bask in the beauty of that and trust that, that spirit is guiding it and we're going to be good. And so I love that. And these are those honest conversations that we as women need to have so that we can, and sometimes you need your friend to be like, girl, you're tripping. Like right now, it's okay, right? Like you're good, you're safe, like everything's fine. What was true before is not true now because you're a different person, right? Speaking back to yourself and being like, I have different tools now. I'm okay now. And fundamentally, no matter what, I trust in my spirit. I have one friend who we share very different spiritual beliefs, but she is like one of my go-tos actually that I go to and we talk to each other about everything. And she always says this and like, it's the most annoying and beautiful thing. And she's like, God's in charge. God's in charge. And it's her way to say surrender, right? Mm-hmm. And so surrendering means trusting that we got this and that we're divinely led and everything's going to be exactly in divine order. Yeah. And so I really trust that. I really believe that. My faith may, go in and out when those voices come but I always return to that because no matter what, if you're doing your best to show up for yourself every freaking day and loving yourself and doing all the things we talk about, then there's no doubt that your soul will guide you towards the best possible destiny for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And something that really helps me when I'm having those moments is like just making it okay to be scared. Like everybody's scared about losing something. Like it's so normal. It's so natural. It's so human. Like there's nothing wrong with you for having fear. Yeah. And especially if you're a really anxious person, which means you really care a lot. Exactly. That means like that your anxiety is just doing what it does best, which is speculating, which is a form of it trying to love you because it's trying to protect you from stuff that isn't even there yet by speculating and preparing for the worst or whatever, which can obviously be like detrimental. But when you look at why it's doing that, you can love your anxiety and release some of the resistance and have more peace about it.
Absolutely. And it's good to talk about because it alleviates that and it normalizes, right? So it's like, I remember when I used to nanny and I remember the baby Evelyn, she actually has my mom's name, and I would constantly put my little finger like right underneath her nose, make sure she was breathing like all the time. Are you breathing? Good, baby Evelyn. Okay, good. I was more anxious than her mom. Like her mom felt safer with me taking care of her because she was like, seriously, you're so nervous about her being okay? Because I was constantly checking. This is one example, right? Of like,
Yeah.
when you care, you worry sometimes, but giving that love to your anxiety and nurturing it is the most beautiful thing we can do to keep it chill, keep it more grounded, normalize it, and know that we get to have that.
Yeah, and talking about it is so healing because like when I was having that like episode and it was happening in real time, I literally told my boyfriend like, hey, if I seem off, it's because I'm like having this like freak out in the back of my mind, which I know is like that's not actually probably what's gonna happen, but it's coming up for me because of everything that happened in my past. And he was just like, Kels, like it's okay to be scared, like we're taking things to the next level, like it makes sense that you would have a little bit of like ooh because it's going up and like it's okay. And I was just crying and he was just holding me and I was like, it feels so good to be okay that I'm not okay. And it's like, that's exactly what I've been doing with myself for like the last 2 years. And now to see that in a partner, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, we're
it
all
was worth it.
all human. We get to have those moments
Yeah.
of being held and be loved. And when we talk about it from that place of like, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what's coming up for me, it's really, that's where the magic happens because you get to be held in those places.
And feel safe to do that. Have you announced like what you're doing, Kelsey? Do you feel comfortable like telling everyone?
I can say it.
You did say next level, so everybody's like, what is she talking about?
So next level is my boyfriend and I are moving in together and we're moving to a new state together.
Nice.
And our lives are going to be so much better because we're moving closer to family. We're going to be in a place with more sunshine, more nature, more space. Right now we're in a city, so it's crazy with 2020 protests and helicopters and the National Guard and everything's just like, get me out of here, because we both have really sensitive nervous systems. So we are living our best life and moving. And I'm very excited.
When is that happening again?
Well, technically we're starting to move next week. So it's happening right now.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're all being called to go to nature too. It's so interesting.
Yes.
I've been in New York my whole life, and then I moved to Puerto Rico, which is where we are now. And my husband and I bought a house literally before the pandemic, like went down and in the mountains, because we're all coming to this place of like, we need nature, we need,
Love it.
Yay. And I'm gonna come visit you because I need nature too.
Yes, girl. And I'm gonna have a real guest room and I won't have to do the podcast in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So cool.
Gonna have a real office, you guys, like a real boss.
Okay, so the conversation we just had, first of all, is the reason why we put together this Patreon. Like, this was so good. And the whole episode was good. But this last, oh my God, like the stuff that was said in this last conversation and the bombs, truth bombs and diamonds that were unearthed, guys, I'm good. Like, this was a good one. Kelsey, what do you think? I think this was great.
There's something magical about the container of the Patreon because it has people in it who are really, really excited about our conversation. So I think that helps. But also, like, once the camera goes off, so to speak, I think once we've been talking for 45 minutes already, like, we're more comfortable with each other. We're getting more vulnerable. We're sharing more personal stuff. And I love it. Like, it's not to say that our show isn't awesome. Our show is like 100%, but then the Patreon's like 110%, you know?
It's always, I saw someone else do that the other day and it was so amazing what happens. This is where we now talk behind the scenes stuff. And it was so cool what happens when you give that little context, right? And all of a sudden, it was funny because she was saying funny things and my husband was in the background. So he ended up coming into the video, which has never happened. He like did the behind the scenes and yes, it's nice that we get to talk vulnerably and share, right? And like such a beautiful way to like seal it with you sharing something that's, you're up leveling the fear that came up and you're not choosing to live in it, but you held it and you're walking into it. So
beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks for the praise. Come a long way. Was not always like that, let me tell you, which is why, of course, why we love to teach these things. And I think too, it's so important, like talking about finding a facilitator of healing or someone to hold space for you. It's like, whatever you're struggling with, try and find someone who's already kind of won that battle to an extent. Because like therapists, a lot of therapists, not you obviously, but therapists go into it maybe because their mom was sick or their dad had problems or whatever, but maybe they haven't had the depression or they haven't had the anxiety or
So
they haven't had the problems.
Gone through it.
Right? So if they haven't gone through it, they've only read about it in a book, and they can only help you to a certain extent by referencing a book, you know?
Yeah. I really believe in lived and learned experience, both.
Yeah.
You know, like you really need that. And that's part of the magic of this book. And what I do is also just being able to like say, yes, I studied it, but I've lived it. I think it's important.
Hold the book up so the people on Patreon can see.
Woo.
Isn't it gorge? It's
so pretty.
Cute.
I just sent the before picture.
I just love it. I even get a little excited seeing it because
I'm so happy that your baby saw it and loved it.
My 8-year-old was like, "Mommy, look!" So
Her babies are so cute too. I freaking love them.
my little men, my little Gutierrez men, socks everywhere. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, thanks for being here, Christine. Thanks for sharing your time and your energy and your love and wisdom with us. And we just adore you. So thanks for being here.
Yes, we do. You're the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Bye, sister.
Bye.